Maybe.
Mayor, council, we're going to go through fire today. So Chief Coffey and Chief Bingham both here to present to y'all. And then we'll roll into planning and stormwater, hopefully, for the plan today. We got through general fund already. We've got fire, planning, stormwater, water, and golf. So we're getting almost there. Go ahead,
All
Chief.
right. Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council. This budget's pretty cut and dry. I'm sure you'll have questions, but I will try and move it for the sake of time as quickly as possible. But just stop me if when you have questions. Starting off, we'll just go line by line, is the salaries for $1,442,600. Next is salaries for part-time and auxiliary. And just clarify what auxiliary is, that's our volunteers. And so they do get like a gas reimbursement for them participating with us. I think. So,
And then what's the difference in part-time temp?
I think the temp part is just because the town has an all or nothing with every department for classification. So I think the temp might apply to other departments, and it's just in there because that's a standard practice.
It's just the name of the category.
It's just the name of the category. Yeah. But we have part-time firefighters and then volunteers. We are also asking for $25,000 for overtime in case I need to do a mandatory callback. Sometimes that helps with the staffing. Holiday pay is the same, along with longevity, Social Security for FICA tax. We've got our retirement contributions, 401k, and then of course our state medical insurance.
Let me just go back to one thing on longevity.
Sure.
It didn't look like there was anything in 2022.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's all been broken out in this budget where in the past, we have not broken out things such as this. We have never broken out holiday pay, longevity, any of that before. So now this is just to give you a more clear picture of what the salaries consist of.
Okay.
Let's see, where were we? Medical and other required testing. That is for our mandatory yearly physicals and also hepatitis B vaccinations, which is also mandated for medical, for running medical calls. And that's standard practice. $4,000 for employee appreciation expenses. $54,000 for uniforms. And just to clarify on that, that also covers the category for turnout gear and wildland firefighting gear. So any apparel that the firefighter wears, we consolidated that into uniforms. Just it's easier for us for tracking.
Are we replacing gear? I'm just curious where that expense.
So every year, yearly reoccurring for 24 employees, they get 3 new T-shirts, 3 pairs of pants, or 3 pairs of shorts, or a combination of the 3. You get 2 pairs of pants, 1 short, 2 shorts, 1 pants. It's whatever. But the turnout gear only has a life of 10 years. And because we have 24 employees, and it's because of the cancer initiative to keep our firefighters cancer free, since that's unfortunately a thing in our line of work, is we have a very high percentage of contracting or getting cancer and dying from cancer very young. So
What is
part of the
set
initiative.
turnout gear cost?
Turnout gear usually in total is, I'll tell you, sir. So currently, it's between $4,000 to $7,000 depending on the brand. So there's lots of manufacturers that make turnout gear, so it just depends on who you go with.
Does that price disparity include the longevity of that uniform? I mean, is it like if you go with the 7,000, you're getting a longer
No,
life cycle?
the standard practice for the manufacturers is they only guarantee it up to 10 years. The material itself breaks down when it's, we're going to environments that are over 500 degrees. That's hotter than your oven on broil. And we're routinely working in that environment or hotter. So of course, the material just breaks down because of the being exposed to heat, cold.
Turnout gear is the gear that
That-
you wear going to a fire.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. That includes the helmet, the hood, the Nomex hood, the jacket, pants, and boots. and gloves.
So if we've got every 10 years, we've got 24 employees, we've got the t-shirts, what else is in that big group of uniforms?
Wildland gear. So that is wildland gear, the forest fighting gear. So those uniforms are different. Obviously, you can't fight a structure fire because that'll increase your body temperature. And it's very thick. So that's non-practical and not standard operating practices for fighting woods fires. However, you have to have Nomex made clothing, and Nomex is a little pricey because it's a special material that's fire resistant. So the pants and the wildland shirts are made of that material. Normal practice for firefighting tactics and wildland is we don't particularly use water when we're traveling up it. We're fighting fire with fire. That's where that term comes from, is wildland firefighting. So we don't have the luxury per se of having water to protect us. Also, that cost includes the fire shelters. So when the fire's overtaking you, especially in this mountainous terrain, last ditch effort is more or less something that looks like a tinfoil bag that you get in and hope that you don't die. So,
What do you figure that runs?
so that total cost for the wildland is around $3,000, $3,087 per set. But that gets replaced as needed. So that has a longer life than the 10 years because we're not really exposing ourselves to the extreme temperatures. Just our main concerns there is, of course, the fire itself, but mostly when debris and other things are on fire above our heads. So it protects us from when the wind blows embers up on you to keep you from getting burned.
Licenses, certifications.
Yes, thank you. Professional license and certification and dues, what that covers is as professional firefighters, we're required to maintain certain licensing, such as North Carolina Fire Instructor certification, our Rescue Association, North Carolina Fire Chief Association, Fire Marshal Association. It's general statute that every fire department will be a member of the North Carolina State Firemen's Association as well. So that just covers those membership costs for each staff member. Going down to employee Con Ed training, we require specialty training. So the advanced training opportunities, it keeps us up to date. Not just fire, but in this day and age with technological threats, chemical threats, we need to be ahead of the game, and that requires specialty training. Which brings us into the next is the education and supplies. Our training is constantly evolving. We are asking for $7,000 for education and training, $3,500 for training supplies, and then we were asking for $11,000, but we came down to $7,700 for employee travel per diems. Information technology services. That's anything out of the norm of what ADNS, which is our IT service, provides. If we needed an extra drop or something like that in the office, then that's where that cost would come from. Contract labor, there's no request. Cleaning services, we clean our own facility, so there's no request there. There's no request for advertising and notices. No request for contract maintenance service. Bank service charges and fees, that's just our portion as a department for the use of the town banking system. Technology and software license, that covers our RMS system, which is First Due, that tracks all of our incident calls. It tracks our statistical data for running a fire department. It also covers our NFPA subscription for our code enforcement section. We also have a organizational management system to where we can track performance of our firefighters and our staff. And it also covers the Buncombe County PSIP, CGIS, and CAD interface. Utility electrical is the average cost. Our gas average cost. Refuse, we're not requesting anything since we removed our dumpster and we're using the town's normal trash and recycle cans. Communications is the phone system. Utility, water, and sewer average cost. Cell phone stipend covers the use of our personal phones for business use. So that way the town doesn't incur cost on having to buy a cell phones. R&M building, we're not anticipating any major building issues this year. Unfortunately, we had a lot of issues last year. We had the air conditioning go out and a lot of things just from age and use of that building. Vehicle maintenance, we were up. We've had a lot of catastrophic events just because of the age of the trucks. So that's costing us higher maintenance, but we discussed that in the retreat on the issue with the trucks. But 38,000 is what we're guesstimating on maintenance this year.
That's just if something breaks down, you gotta repair it.
That's just the routine maintenance.
Okay.
Some
Especially,
examples of what happened that would cause that much money.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Some examples of exactly what happened that would reflect in that kind of a dollar.
At the Safety Saturday, for instance, our truck decided to overheat and spill fluids all over the parking lot. That was an unexpected occurrence. We weren't expecting that to happen, and it was just idling. But that truck, what hell was that truck? It's a 2004, so we're at the coming up on the 20-year mark for that truck. And we had the pump go out on one of our tankers. However, we use that tanker quite a bit. And we try to be, with all of our equipment, we try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Be all-inclusive with all the other departments. So we allow Public Works to use our tanker to clean out the culverts and whatnot. So we try to help out with the town as a whole as much as we can, besides doing our due diligence and duties as firefighters at the fire station. So
Do you have 2 trucks in the shop currently?
we just got one back last night, but yes, the other truck is still in the shop and it
What
has
is
been in
that-
the shop.
What
for
is
about-
that for?
That was our primary attack engine, and
No, why is it in the shop? What broke?
That was a truck that got the all injector replaced in 2019. They were thinking it was injectors again. They've had it for well over a week. They have deduced, hopefully, that is a sensor in the intake that tells the truck, okay, temperature outside is this, you need this much fuel. So it's overloading, what they're thinking, it's overloading the intake of fuel, so when you go to take off, it starts spitting and sputtering on that. So we don't know what that's gonna cost, but they've had it for a week.
That down at Valley.
Yes, sir.
And I think, the reality is these trucks, many of these trucks are so aged that this is what we deal with on a yearly basis.
yeah, our just to give you some insight, let's see, we have engine 43 that is from 1984, I believe.
That's almost as old as me.
Yes, I think you were 4 years old when that truck was bought. Okay. Tanker 43 from 1986, tanker 42 from 1993, engine 41 from 97, rescue 41 from 1999, brush 4 from 99. Then we get into this century with engine 42 in 2004, rescue 4 in 2004, truck 4 in 2004, truck 401 in 2004, which I guess 2004 was a good year for this place. Truck 401, however, is one of the trucks, and we'll get to that line item, but I'll tell you now, truck 401 is a truck that planning needed for the new building inspector, so we transferred that truck over for that need.
That's one that we see outside
The white one.
in the park.
This is one that's, you see at the fire department, it's a light Chevrolet
Oh,
Silverado.
You're referring to Rescue 41. That's what we, sorry. That's the truck that we gave to PD for their needs. Squad 4 was in 2010. FP4 2010. Engine 45 was in 2012, and then our newest engine, which actually gives us the most problems mechanically, it was bought in 2017. And that was in the shop more than the older ones. And that's just from a bad design on a water manifold. No fault of our own. It's just manufacturing at the time thought their design was state of the art, and it just wasn't.
How many engines do we have that, like if we had a structure fire, how many engines would we deploy at a time? Like a large structure fire?
Two.
We have two?
2 is the primary, and then we have reserve engines and backup engines.
Okay, so one's in the shop.
We have another engine ready to go. Yeah, we have another truck in reserve.
Does it ever happen that both of them are in the shop?
Yes, it did happen when I first got here. We had,
And what happened? What was the workaround on that? I mean, what'd you do?
well, I'm a volunteer at Reynolds Fire Department, so I asked the chief over there if we could borrow an engine. While the
So
other,
we had to borrow an engine from Reynolds.
yes. So, but it's
And
a
we have
situation
mutual
where,
aid with Swananoa
Do
though.
what?
But we have mutual aid with Swananoa that
yeah, but
works. Works.
yeah, their staffing they're in dire straits right now with staffing to where it's not even guaranteed that we would get the staffing that we require from them. We've had to have Anca Fire Department come out as mutual aid because of the staffing, but that's all over the state and all over the county. So we're fortunate enough. We were at full staffing up until a couple months ago. Unfortunately, one of our employees had a home need, so this job wasn't conducive to her needs. So we have just one opening right now that we hope will get filled by the end of this month. So,
Office supplies.
sir,
Office supplies.
office supplies. That's up a little bit only because of inflation costs. Everything's up. So you'll see a lot of these little line items for office supplies and whatnot, smaller needs. That's just the cost of the nation right now. Janitorial supplies, 3,500. Medical supplies, the reason medical supplies is up again, inflation costs, but this also has to do with the fact of availability. So the hurricane that we had in 2017 that didn't really affect us, but affected Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was the largest, had the largest facility for medical supplies, and that was completely destroyed. So since that, we've been trying to play catch up for quite some time with medical supplies. And because of the shortage, of course, everyone has raised the prices because of the demand on consumables and medicine. We are an intermediate, an advanced EMT level, which is higher than EMT, but just below paramedic. And so we do administer medications, and those medications come with a cost. The other thing is we're getting ready to start what is called interosseous IV access. And what that is it's a drill that drills into your bone so we can give you IV fluids because it's actually quicker to get medicines and fluids through the portions of your bone. Your bone is actually really porous, so it goes through your body a lot quicker. But that's a practice. I'm a paramedic myself. That's a practice we've had for quite some time as a paramedic level, but not at the AEMT level. So that's new. The drill itself is around $500. We have 2 stations. We'll have to have 2 drills, and each needle is $100 a needle. So don't miss. No. And a box of needles is only comes in boxes of 5, and they have an expiration date, unfortunately. So the medical director of the county made that a new skill, and whenever he makes a decision, we have to comply.
And so that'll be part of new training as
Yes.
well.
Technology.
Thank you. So for technology, supplies and materials, spot. I apologize. That's our computer components and monitors, et cetera, printers. If we need. Right now, I think we're good. But you never know. Computer crashes happen every day. Specialty operating supplies. So what that covers is stationary and equipment needed for when we do fire investigation, hazard management, incident command system equipment for large incidents. When you're running a very large incident, you still need to operate as an office almost. You're going to need supplies for tracking and management and planning. So that covers those costs. Non-capital equipment and furniture. We are needing to update some adapters and valves, such as a 2.5-inch gate valve. And this is industry specific. So these aren't valves that we can just go down to Lowe's or Ace and buy. Unfortunately, these are specially made adapters that attach to the fire truck and some of the firefighting equipment. But a 2.5-inch gate valve, a Stort's reducer, ball valve intakes, low-level strainers, and whatnot. The other two items that is in there is a fire investigation camera. When you're doing an investigation, you're called to court, and your pictures, they need to be pristine. You serve as an attorney. We're very well aware of what the expectations are in a court of law. And the camera that we're asking for it's just an Nikon D700, but cameras are still pricey nowadays. But we did go and take the time and get pricing on all these items. So that cost is fairly close to what I'll need exactly.
I am curious, it looks
Yes,
like the request was quite a bit higher. Am I looking at the right line?
For the sake of the town budget, I was willing to negotiate or to let some items go.
Okay.
Not saying that they were wants, they're definitely needs, but
But maybe we'll be
the
talking
needs of
about
the
that
town
next year.
are just as important.
Lease rental equipment.
Yes, sir. Lease rental equipment is the copier, the commercial grade copier that we have. I believe all the departments have. And that includes the maintenance and the service. Fuel is increased just due to the economic state. Fuel costs are up. Diesel, we burn a lot of diesel. We did research electric vehicles. We are continuing to research that with even options for hybrid.
Should get through on the research. I understand
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
not time yet, but I appreciate the research.
That is definitely on the radar, though. Postage, stamps, delivery needs. It's pretty simple. Liability and property insurance coverage. Those are divided into quarterly payments around $8,000 a quarter, and that's BFIS that covers our trucks and our equipment, our specialty equipment. Safety and compliance that covers our ladder testing, air pack testing, preventive maintenance on everything, and most of this is OSHA required. Community outreach and public education. This is something I'm very passionate about. So I'm asking for $4,000, and that is also to help for a community risk reduction program. Statistically, and if anyone's ever interested, I have all the demographic numbers right here, but we do have a very, very large retirement community and people over the age of 65. And one of the risks identified is fall risks. That's evident if we run our report. So we want to do what we can for community outreach on fall prevention programs, and there's lots of things that helps the seniors that the fire service can provide as far as education and making connections with our community partners for reasonable accommodations. Moving on, miscellaneous expenses, just unplanned or unexpected expenditures. The capital outlay vehicle, $70,000, and what that is we have reassigned 2 vehicles. We have taken a support vehicle that we needed and reallocated the planning department for that need. But what it is we're just needing another pickup truck. But the reason the cost of that pickup truck is around 70 is because the equipment that's also required to be on that truck. and the needs as far as the lights, the mobile radio, and the sirens and other necessary features. So now we do have an option to purchase a truck through the Sheriff's Association, which us as a fire department are allowed to do. So that cost might be a lot lower. So, oh, sorry, my hearing is off. I thought Chief Bingham was wanting to say something there. Sorry, my apologies.
Let me mention something real quick. Chief.
Yes, sir.
Alice, you asked about that one line a minute ago, how much we reduced it.
Yeah.
Well, part of that is we recategorized it, and you'll see in this next line, the request was 15 and we budgeted 70.
Okay, thank you. So that moved a little bit.
For capital outlay for furnishings, I'm asking for 12 bed frames. The current beds that the firefighters have now were from 30 years ago, and they were donated by the prison system. The newer bed frames have integrated storage that would allow all 3 shifts to utilize and maximize our already limited space within the facility. Also asking for 5 portable hand radios. 5 radios come to a cost of around $22,000. Each radio, depending on its capability, it runs between $5,000 and $7,000. And FCC puts a lot of regulation on emergency service radios, and with narrowing of bandwidths, the radios have to be able to be prioritized to where we're able to talk. The more narrowing of a bandwidth, we found we could go to the freezer section in angles and we can't talk to each other. So, let's see, thermal imaging. This also covers a thermal imaging camera. We have a thermal imaging camera on both our primary engines, but those cameras are how old?
At least 8,
Okay.
at least 8.
But just like any technology, the batteries are unreliable. We'll have a full charge and it's only good for 15 minutes or less. And we operate in an environment that we need that thing to work for more than 30 minutes. And what that camera does is that allows us to see in little to no visibility to find victims or each other, or to use it to locate hot spots in the interstitial spaces of a structure where you can't see. Gear lockers, I'm also asking for gear lockers out of that line item. They're made of rolled steel and wire mesh and allows for better airflow in between the gear, reduces mildew, it extends, it keeps the gear in better condition. The lockers we have now are wooden. Some are from reclaimed grade school lockers that are becoming dilapidated. The newer lockers will accommodate and maximize already limited space. But also the lockers will accommodate both their wildland and structure gear. Right now, they have no choice, but they've got their gear spread across the station just so, because we have no space. And also these lockers are portable and they're on wheels. So in the future, if we ever have to move to a different building or whatever, those lockers come with us. They just roll. So they'll accommodate the needs that we have. And the last, the other on this line item is hose replacement. I'm trying to get at least 400 feet of hose replaced on a reoccurring basis. As much as we use the hose, it just deteriorates. The inner jacket's rubber, so rubber dry rots after a while. We have hose that's been around before we even started in the fire service that's still in use. So, but the hose that we're also looking at has a lot of features like abrasive reducing material and the one key hose I guess we were looking at. You can pack it back wet. It doesn't grow mildew. So that's a plus. The last item is we are looking at a drone. If anyone came to Safety Saturday and saw the drone that Broad River Fire Department has, we feel that in the modern day fire service, every decision that we make and every action we make needs to be immediate. And what that drone does is it helps us in a lot of aspects, especially on one of our biggest hazards here, which is wildland fire. but we could use that drone for search and rescue, structural operation, fire operations, to where me and him as incident commanders can see an overall picture of a fire scene. Wildland operations, pre-planning of structures, scene monitoring, disaster recovery. That's a biggie now. When over here in Caruso, they deployed a lot of drones, so FEMA and their town management was able to see the extent of the damage with the drones without putting anyone in harm's way. Because even after a disaster, there's still areas that are dangerous to when you're doing your assessments.
Do we have to train people?
We do have one pilot.
I know that's the whole thing. To get
Yeah.
trained.
But there's a school coming up at no cost to the town in July at West Oak Fire Department. So if you guys are willing enough to accept that in the budget, then we can definitely get you some more pilots.
And what's the cost of the drone?
Anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000, but we're since this is a new program, we're just asking for 5.
From my standpoint, I think it's kind of neat. We can use this for other things as well. Maybe we could do flyovers over the Hemp Hill property, over Adventures property. You can get a bird's eye view of anything, downtown, golf course, whatever you want to do.
What happened to the drone that we have?
That is up at the golf course. That one, I don't think that one does not have camera capabilities. It was simply used to scare off geese.
But I mean, it is a drone though.
It is a
I mean, we could adapt that. I'm not saying you have to adapt it to their
We-
situation, but
Potentially,
they could be adapted.
potentially that's correct. It should be able to be done.
Myself and the pilot, we were very familiar with drone capabilities. We did go look at that drone, and that drone is not upgradable. That drone was actually a racing drone, which there is a huge difference. So that drone was actually meant to be modified for racing. But yeah, that doesn't meet unfortunately, we were hoping it would have met. Then we could have just took the cost of what we needed just to make upgrades on that drone. But unfortunately, that's not an emergency service utilized drone. And I did discuss this with the manager. Yes, we would want that drone to be multi-purpose for town use. So
So since I spent Saturday next to the drone people, I had a chance to think about drones a little bit. And one use that was mentioned was for building inspections or fire inspections, really about, you can't get up on the roof to see if grease is accumulated in a restaurant, that it would be another use for the drone. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am.
For this one?
yes, ma'am. When I was a fire marshal over in Hendersonville, we did utilize a drone for that very purpose. One of the major features that I love about drone technology is, of course, we have a lot of hikers that like to come to Black Mountain. And part of the capabilities that you can purchase a drone that can have a payload to where you can drop off a bottle of water, cell phone, and a whistle. So that way they can blow the whistle and we can find them. They even have drones now. These drones are up in the 10 to 12,000 range that will have two-way communication where the drone can talk to the individual. So maybe let's see how this drone
It's
works
like a
first.
portable walkie-talkie
Let's
or
get the program
something.
started. We'll go from there. Let's see. Capital outlay motorized equipment. So we had asked for a UTV last year. Unfortunately, Scotty Harris, who was the fire chief before me, had written that budget, and he didn't foresee the inflation cost. So when that budget was written, that was before things really started to hike up in price last year. So when we went to go find a UTV, it was out of that price range of what we originally budgeted for. So we decided to hold on and see if we couldn't move those funds over to this year, add a little bit more so we could purchase it this year instead of last year.
How much did we budget last year?
I think it was about 20 grand.
So we're asking for another 15.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And this is replacing an ATV. Now, it's not recommended that we do single resource anymore. That's very dangerous to send a single person on an ATV up by himself in the woods. If that thing overturns and he's injured and unable to communicate to us that he's injured, that's horrible. That's a liability. So what we're doing is we're going to repurpose that ATV to Public Works. That they have a need there to be able to go up and down the Greenway and for their maintenance needs. So that will be reallocated to Public Works.
So I'm not familiar with the acronym UTV. Is that like a side-by-side? Is
Yes.
that- Okay.
Yeah. Everything we do needs to be at least in pairs.
Yeah.
I believe, yes, that is it.
Questions? From council?
So no new positions?
No new positions this year.
When you're looking at the salaries, and you look at that, $450,000 jump there, what percentage of that is due to a pay classification change? And then secondly, the COLA that was given last year.
I don't know those numbers off the top of my head, Mr. Mayor. That $400,000 difference, now that's gonna change, right? This is, $1 million is not a full year, so you still got 4 more pay periods that have to go in here, which is gonna be another couple $100,000 at least. So your change is gonna be 5% for COLA currently, is what we have in there. And I'd have to go back and run numbers based on the pay state and give you that exactly.
We added positions last year. Is there, or was that the year before?
Before.
It was year before.
Yeah, and we did 3, I think.
Yes.
Yes, we did 3 for 3 shifts the year before, A, B, and C shift. 2 budgets ago.
Scotty first got here when he saw that we were subpar on engine companies. That's very, very dangerous. We were putting the citizens at risk. We were putting the town at risk. So that was a necessary move.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, Council.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right, excellent. Thank you.
Give me just a second, I'm sorry, I'm trying to freeze this thing.
Well,
These
hey,
are a
work
new
for
addition.
Brian. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
It did.
Let's see if I get dizzy, if I can,
If
I can read it all.
It's never where I think it's gonna be. I run
Does
into
anyone-
that.
Tammy, do you know where freeze is? Freeze, pain, where is that in here? I don't want to freeze number 2, I want to freeze number 1.
Yeah, it's good.
I swear Microsoft does this on purpose, they change it, I feel like they change it every week.
I thought that was just me, but
No,
yeah.
it's me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn everything today.
I did hit there.
I'm scared. How quick is that?
Yeah, that did.
All right,
Thank you.
teamwork makes the dream work. Okay.
You ready? Well, unfortunately, I don't have any cool toys to ask for, no drones, no trucks. It's a lot more boring than that. Before we get started on things that are proposed, I wanted to go and hit things that were cut from this budget before we got here today, which totaled to $186,500. That was a reduction in 30% on employee training and education, Healthy Homes Education Program, a placemaking program or activity on Richardson and Sutton, public meetings for upcoming plan updates that we wanted to do, support materials, signage, and things like that for the urban trout program that you'll be learning more about. We're getting ready to become a Mountain Heritage trout water through Fish and Wildlife. We were going to continue the Gray Eagle Bike Boulevard from Tomahawk to Carver. Intersection upgrades at East State and Richardson. The Cherry Lane sidewalk that we've been punting now for 3 or 4 years. And traffic calming implementation. So those are the things that are not here already. Everything that's in here is aligned with the comprehensive plan or some other previously adopted plan. I have those references if you want them. I'm not going to read them to you one by one. We'll be here all day. But just know that that's how all of this was developed. So we have the salaries, holiday pay, longevity, Social Security, all those things are modified from the salary study and we'll pull it for this year. Nothing big or surprising there. So we have uniforms. It's up a little bit this year. It's $800. Normally it's $500. We are increasing that a little bit because we are asking for a part-time code enforcement officer who will need identifying, clothing for that. We also have protective clothing. That's a new line item now that normally steel-toe boots, hard hats, things of that nature. Then we have employee travel. I'm hoping I wrote these all down in the same order that they're up there.
No, you may not have, you got professional licenses. and
Okay,
dues.
I'm starting from there. We got it there. So professional licenses and dues, that's like CZO, American Planning Association, notary, and things like that. And those are not just cute little certificates that we put in a folder or anything. We're active in our organizations. I've been really active at the American Planning Association last year, which has been really exciting. A little time-consuming, but good. Then we get into employee continuing education and training. You can see that's where I think Josh did a cut across the board. We're very active with school government, and we have some things we would like to be doing there this year, including municipal county administration and the zoning certification program. We have employee continuing education supplies. Those are, we don't account for anything like that. Anything that we go to, the materials are provided to us. We don't have to buy a book separately or things like that. And then you have the travel, getting back and forth to those things. Legal is up because our service fees are up. Professional services, engineering and design. That is $114,000. That includes $100,000 for feasibility and master planning of our Hemp Hill property and the associated Black Mountain Ventures properties. Talked to several design firms on that, and that they all came in right at or slightly over $100,000. Also in that is $7,000. That's our match for the Ridgecrest Connector feasibility study that we are doing through the MPO. And then we have $7,000 miscellaneous traffic engineering that we generally use significantly more than that, so we will be paring that down. Other professional and technical services, $50,000. That includes $30,000 to complete the UPO. I hope I don't need all that, but I might. We're a little bit behind schedule. Some of those sections took longer to get through than we expected. We also have $2,000 to get a GIS consultant in here. Our data is not well organized and it's a little dispersed because that traditionally has been something that the Council of Government has done for us. We'll be bringing that in-house. So we need to get everything over here and everything that's in Town Hall in one place, organized, updated, and useful.
So you said that's 10,000,
Mm-hmm.
and is that like a one-time to transfer over? I mean,
Yes.
but there'll be some smaller fees, maybe ongoing, but
Well, we will have technology fees for software and things, but this would be to bring a person in to get all this data updated, organized, and accessible. We're collecting more and more data that we can use, and so bringing it in-house and having custody of that data makes it more useful for us instead of having to call and pay somebody to do that for us. So that's exciting. And we also have, I think, in that the $10,000 for Buncombe County inspections. It's really a pass-through cost. They, it's the cost us the same amount for an inspection as it does for them, so it will wash out. Then we have contract labor services, that's $20,000. That's where you're going to see the part-time code enforcement officer. it's kind of amazing, we're only asking for one part-time person. I don't
I'm not sure all what this came up.
That little thing, there you go. Okay, uh-oh.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
We're
A
just
mi- a
going
mind
to.
of its own.
Nobody for you, Jennifer.
Bye. Just, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Jessica.
No, you're good.
What?
Jennifer.
My sister's name's Jennifer. I will answer to that. Absolutely. Okay, so code enforcement, we have in the past had a contract worker do code enforcement for us. We need help. We have a new UDO coming out. We are going to have a significant number of new rules and regulations to figure out how to pace ourselves with. And right now, I have an experienced planner out doing tall grass, and that is not the best use of our time. So that's what that is. Printing and binding services, bank service charges, utilities and communication, cell phone stipends, vehicle maintenance, those are all typical expenses. We have our office supplies, we run on notebooks and pens in my department. Janitorial supplies, anything. The non-capital and equipment and furniture I'm excited about, we are running out of space, you've probably observed in town hall. So we have this sort of awkward common area in our suite that used to be, have a desk and permit clerk. The permit clerk has been replaced with software. And now we have this open area. And it's not really big enough to make an office out of or to create a meeting room, but we're going to make a kiosk area that has either a computer or an iPad set up for people to use the portal there. We'll also have a monitor set up so we can do site plan review with folks, and staff can meet in there with developers. So we're not always coming in here and tying up this room for what is really, it's too big of a project to do around one person's desk, but not necessary to take up all that space. So we're going to be making a place for that for the public. The lease and rental equipment, the copier and our plotter. Unfortunately, the plotter we purchased, I think my first year it's here, died recently, and it was about as much to fix it as it was to start leasing one. So that's what we did. Fuel, the incentive rebate program is on building permits, kind of rolls out. Miscellaneous expenses, and capital outlay for furnishing and non-motorized equipment. We were just trying to, we're going to be making that office space for the code enforcement person and trying to make our what's now sort of a workroom more practical for an intern to come in, for the code enforcement person to pop in, and things like that.
What's your community outreach and public relations?
The community,
At $9,000.
that is not supposed to be $9,000. We
Okay.
dropped that down to $2,000.
Okay.
So originally that included things like the Healthy Homes program and things like that. But we have $2,000 in it now for an energy conservation program that we'll be doing.
And the last is this.
Yep, so these are monies similar to what Chief Coffey had, where we have about $64,000 total set aside now for the Gray Eagle Bike Boulevard. We have purchased the street signs and the beacons. We've been getting hammered by DOT for about 5 months now, wanting additional speed analyses, maybe a different sign. It took 4 months for them to say okay to a skip green line to go to make it pedestrian and bike friendly for that intersection crossing. So we have about $28,000 left, but we have no idea exactly when DOT is going to finish nitpicking all of this. We just found out we're going to have to get elevation shot for the sidewalk, which was not anticipated. So we're going to just kind of keep trucking into this next, and hopefully be done this summer. But that's where that is.
So the reason we're asking for that in the new budget, I guess it's really just preference, right? We can set up a capital project fund and put that money in there this year and it could roll, or we can just, the money that's in there now is going to roll back into general fund and we're just going to allocate it. So it matters.
For a small project that we know is going to be, done soon, then we will, we've been trying, we've actually, it's possible that we will get the street painting done except for the intersection this fiscal year, if we can get our contractor on the calendar. He's so busy, he just can't get us on the calendar right now. So that funding is there this year to keep nudging along. But until DOT finishes the approvals on these intersection requirements, we can't touch the intersection, but we can do everything else because it's local streets. The signs are beautiful. They're down in Public Works, just waiting to go. And that's planning. You have any questions? About everything? Actually, Josh, I'm sorry, can we go back to planning for just a second? So I just wanted to mention that we do have the capital project fund for EB 5547A and B. Those are no new monies allocated, that's why they're not here, but that doesn't mean that they aren't programmed out. And do you want to do PE right away on Ninth Street?
You want to talk about that now?
Well, just the two parts that for right now.
Go ahead.
So the Ninth Street Bridge, we are going to have to set aside a little bit more money for PE because the negotiated cost came in higher. We're only on the hook for 20% of that. DOT has also informed us they will charge $40,000 to review all the plans done by the engineers. And working with NPO, we anticipate only being on the hook for 20% of that as well. Right of way, I'm waiting for updated costs. Originally, they allocated $120,000 because of its proximity to the golf course. They're going to have to do a full environmental document, SHPO, and all that fun stuff, which is much more expensive than you would expect. But I'm still hoping it's not $120,000. But even still, we are paying also 20% of that.
For what now?
The Ninth Street Bridge.
No, I know we're talking about the Ninth Street Bridge, but what's this last cost?
Right away,
No, the total you said, for our percentage.
20%.
So what right away do we have to?
So
on that?
because federal money is touching it, every bit of the right of way, they have to have a temporary construction easement to stage. They have to review everything for historic and get it cleared by the SHPO office in Raleigh. They have to do a categorical exclusion on the environmental, that there's no endangered species living there to be accommodated for, and things like this. So it drives those costs.
So how come we can't go ahead and do on that side of the golf course what we did on the lake side of the golf course at the croquet court? And just get it done ourselves and forget about trying to go to the federal government to get any money for the state.
Bridge replacement's going to probably cost you in the realm of $1 million start to
Well,
finish.
that's not what we paid for that bridge there.
I have no idea what you paid for that bridge.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. We paid less than $100,000. Not what Bob said, it was just somewhere in the neighborhood of $55,000.
When was that?
Well, even if it was 10 years ago, that's less double it. But I'm just saying that if we're spending 20%,
Mhm.
then we're talking about well over $100,000. And if we can just go ahead and do it ourselves, we can get it done quicker. And we can do it without having to go through all this stuff with the federal government. It basically just takes a big culvert.
Well, there's
And that's what
also
you're- and that's-
utilities.
And that's what you're putting in there.
Not necessarily. There's also aerial utilities on this that's going to drive the cost. There were 17, Jamie Matthews and I went to the mobilization meeting with Vaughn and Milton, who's the design firm on this, and there were 17 engineers on site. And a lot of it has to do with all of the utility relocations that are involved.
How much utility you look at it. I'm just thinking we ought to look into this. I mean, here's a way for us to try to get a job done quicker, a job done less money. Why can't we explore that?
And I'm not saying we can't, Mr. Mayor, this council previously decided to go this route, and that's why we're not this route.
You have 7 municipal bridges, and eventually they will all have to be replaced at some time, and they will all cost around $1 million.
I mean, they could cost $1 million. I'm just saying there's another way we could do this. We've already done this in the town. And I just don't see why we can't use that same technique and that bridge with that culvert with dirt packed on top for us to go ahead and proceed and try to save some money.
All for saving money, for sure. I don't want to go through the red tape either.
This has been on the books for several years, right?
2020.
Well, I understand it's been on the books. I'm just saying, here's an opportunity, I think, an idea. We've done it before in the town. If we've got a way to try to save money, why don't we proceed and at least look at it? I mean, that's not, it couldn't take that much for somebody to come in there and give us an engineering firm. Maybe someone disqualified. But if we get on the sessions, have them come out and look at that.
And see, we don't even know at this point what they're even proposing to do over there.
We won't know until they get to about 20% design. Hopefully that's gonna be very soon. I mean, I tried to get these numbers updated before this meeting, and I'm still told it'll be about a week before that they have that information.
I
So
would
if we were
encourage
to
the board
try
to
to-
look at doing something to, that we could do ourselves to try to save money.
If we were to try to do it ourselves, who would we have to prove that we're doing it safely and, that it meets all the design standards? Who do we have to show that to?
So these bridges are part of the National Bridge Inspection Program. I'm imagining that DOT would probably have to review them in some shape or fashion. The design of a bridge, we don't pick that. Engineers are going to look at that and say, this is the one that's going to meet. I have no real faith that we have bridges that are made of wood that have to be replaced in the near future. And the East Street Bridge is priority after this one. I recently asked DOT, I did a report. A little bird told me that Raleigh was funding municipal bridges at 100% right now. And so I reached out, I was like, is this true? And they said, yes. So I wrote a report for every single bridge in town and said, will you please replace all of our bridges at some point? And they said, no, we will not. So in either fashion, we do not, we need a strategy to fund these bridges, whether it is through, collaborations with the DOT or if it's on our own dime. There needs, that long-term strategy is something, we'll be talking about later. They are certainly not cheap, in any way.
But when we have one that's already proven, and it's handling the same creek, matter of fact, this 9th Street Bridge will be handling a little bit less water than the bridge down at the Truck Airports, because of all the runoff that comes off of the underground springs on the fourth fairway there.
You're talking about the bridge, Mike, between the Coke Acres and the Lake Conroe?
Yeah.
That floods every 100 rain?
What do you mean, flood?
Oh, it's bad. Yeah. It's dipping in real bad. Drive it next time I get
Oh, I
it.
drive it all the time.
Yeah.
And my sister lives there. I'm over there all the time,
Okay.
So Jessica, did you say that in a week we'll have like more of an idea?
Potentially,
Okay,
yeah.
hopefully, yeah, we might know more
Somebody,
about
I'm just,
what that looks
when
like.
DOT says 2 weeks, sometimes that means 2 months,
Right.
but hopefully not.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it. All right, so before we dig into stormwater, I feel like I need to preface a little bit about this. I think context is really important when you're looking at these numbers and understanding what they're for and what they are not for. So the School of Government puts on a workshop twice a year on how to finance wastewater, water, and stormwater. It's a 2-day thing. For the last 3, I've been invited to be the speaker on stormwater finance and program development. I was recently interviewed for a book that the School of Government is putting out on how to create a utility. And the state gave the School of Government, the Center for Environmental Finance, money to write a guidebook, like a case study on a single place. And I was informed last month that Black Mountain will be that place. We are being recognized widely across the state for leadership in stormwater management and responding to these very intense requirements from federal government, passed down through the state, through the NPDES permit. And so giving this talk that I give to peers, from other jurisdictions, it's really fun. It's about an hour long. And I decided to take some of my own notes before and so my own lessons learned before I shared this with you, and that is about normalizing the stormwater fee. Nothing is free. It is not free to turn on your water tap. It is not free to pay the street, to turn on the water, or anything else. It wasn't free to put the pipes in the ground that exist currently. We pay for stuff all the time. And this is one way to pay for something that we have no choice in having. Would there be less stressful ways to do this? I mean, we would do them if they were available to us. So normalizing stormwater fee is important. We have an MPDS permit. We are one of 114 municipalities. I'm sorry, there are 114 MS4 MPDS permit holders in the state. So we're one of them. Last year, there were 98 stormwater utilities. 93 were municipal, 5 were counties. Of those 93 municipal, 42 of those utilities were in towns with populations under 10,000. Black Mountain is a great special little place, but it's not because it has a stormwater utility. This is part of doing business to respond to a regulatory environment that is expensive to implement. So the other part is that I just have to accept that some people are going to be mad about this. I've been beating this drum for 3 years now. We're doing something that's very impressive and it's very complicated. I've put out information from the federal government, from the state. I've given long interviews in the newspaper. It's been front page news. It's been third page news multiple times over the last 3 years. At this point, if somebody wants to tell me that I don't have legal authority to create a utility, that it's not the right way to do something, or that the MPDS permit is something I made up, I can't do anything about that. We are really paying attention to speaking to the choir at this point, because we do have a lot of supporters out there, and it is better time spent. The other part is that change is just hard, and that new things are hard, but managing that is important. And I think that we have made significant inroads, particularly through implementing this program successfully and showing what people get for their $72 a year. Because it's a lot. It's kind of a miracle what we're pulling off. And I don't want to diminish the fact that that's true. I also just want to correct a couple of things I've heard recently that I think I don't want you to walk away from thinking are true, because it's confusing. The LASI money that we were funded, I can't even remember if we've talked about that at a council meeting at this point, because we're so busy. But that $5 million is for one project in the Stormwater Master Plan. The stormwater utility was developed to hopefully set aside between $80,000 and $100,000 a year to put toward infrastructure, which is really only good for very small projects and debt service in the long run. If we set aside only that $80,000 to $100,000 a year, it would have taken us 62 and a half years to pay out of pocket, to save up and pay to do this one project. We also can't just spend it on anything. It is specific. It was an application for one thing. The planning dollars that we received, the $400,000, are going to meet a requirement of our permit, which involves mapping the MS4 system, doing a conditions assessment, and developing a capital plan. Our Stormwater Master Plan now it gives you a lot of criteria to try to make judgments, but it is not a funded capital plan because there isn't enough data on the conditions system and the location of the hard infrastructure downtown. That is a missing piece. And when we're all said and done, between the current Stormwater Master Plan and what will come out of these planning dollars, I'm anticipating somewhere in a total of $25 million of infrastructure needs. So this is just to say that we are prioritizing compliance, and that is one thing. And that one item, just for reference, in that stormwater permit is taking care of your MS4 system, which is extraordinarily expensive. So it's very complicated. And this is how we have broken all of that out. We're not asking for any new staff positions. And Philip will be continuing on, and as our primary stormwater person, we all touch this program in some way, shape, or form.
Let me stop right there just for a second, Jessica. I'm sorry. I still owe, I know Mr. Mayor had asked for a breakdown on that stormwater. I will get you that as far as the other salaries that go into that figure. That is not just stormwater administration salaries.
That's spread.
That is other employees' salaries that go into that as well.
That's right.
But I will get you that percentage breakdown.
And when we originally proposed this program, that is not how we were allocating salaries. And so that is, the stormwater requires, allocation from the general fund at this point, because that additional bump in distributing, which totally makes sense, but it's not how we did it at the time. So that's why that, really changed between our adoption and kind of where we are now. You get down, this is all just the regular HR stuff, uniforms, and professional licenses, dues, fuel, education and training, and is in the process of becoming a certified floodplain manager and taking on some additional responsibilities related to that, both in plan review, but also in regulatory review of different development permits. And the travel, the $15,000 on engineering and design, we regularly have to consult with an outside engineer. We have a great relationship with a group of engineers who just really made it possible for us to do some awesome stuff. The plan review, when people have a post-construction stormwater permit, those are reviewed by an engineer, and they work between each other to make sure everything is buttoned up on the compliance part of that. Other professional and technical services, part of our NPDES permit and associated stormwater management plan require illicit discharge investigations and water quality testing. So those services take both materials time and sometimes outside laboratory services. And contract labor services. So that $60,000 is going towards the operation and maintenance of the actual MS4 system. One of the things we learned in the stormwater master plan, which all have the same acronyms, unfortunately, is that there are parts of our system that are okay, but they're not efficient. The inlets are too small or they're oddly placed. DOT has paved over some of them, so water can't even leave the street and get into the pipe that is there. So we have a goal to try to improve some efficiency on some of those inlets that are not properly sized or functioning. Some of them are just turned the wrong way. Like there's just some fixes to be done in that way. We're also going to be rehabbing some stormwater control measures that are owned by the town. We're anticipating to spend $40,000, up to $40,000 on that. I've talked to our engineers since I developed this. I'm hoping that I can stretch that up to at least 5. The first one that we'll be doing is the Croquet Court, SCM over there. We're still paying debt service on, but it has 3 feet of sediment in it, and if properly maintained, it will be able to hold significant amount of water compared to what it's currently functioning as. And also, we are looking at doing the East Laurel Circle Drive and Park Lane drainage improvements. It's $20,000. That is on page 52 of your stormwater management plan, master plan. We have renting and services, permits and fees. Those permits, licenses, and fees, we pay $860 to the state every year for the NPDES permit, and then we have general industrial permits that are associated with that as well. Bank services, technology, communication, office supplies, the specialty operating supplies. We have to buy various probes that are only made to last 6 months. Who knew? And when we're doing dry weather outfall monitoring in the river, we have to collect data on any sort of effluent that is leaving the system when it hasn't been raining. We have to figure out what it is. And we do find things, but so far it's only been groundwater, thankfully. The community education and outreach. This is one of the larger items in our stormwater management plan, and it is one of the 6 minimum control measures from the NPDES permit. And people super like participating in all of these things. It includes things like our workshops with RiverLink. We've just learned that they've received another grant, so we're actually going to get more workshops without extra money this year. So that's great. Those have traditionally been the rain barrel programs, riparian management, like if you have a creek on your property, how you can take care of it so your backyard is not washing away and taking the sediment to the river with it. It includes materials for these types of workshops, also fees for the organization to come in and do it. For our tree program, we did 60 trees last year they're like wet feet trees. So that was really popular. People came from like all corners of town to get these trees. Also, we'll be doing some stream restoration on Tomahawk Brant, the golf course. That's going to be a workshop with the extension, and that's really exciting. And then we have that $9,500 on that. That's a zero interest loan, right?
That is a loan that is still existing for the crater, as some of us call it, out on the golf course. This is an ARA grant, which was the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act under President Obama. So it's pretty old, but we're still paying on that one.
So we'll be rehabbing the thing that's,
Historically, this hasn't been in the stormwater fund.
That's
but we
right.
did move it there this year because it's a stormwater project.
that's right.
So what's the figures on it? What's the total?
So figure on that crater, what's left in debt, I'll get back to you and let you know.
So with land improvements, like $22,000, that is our match on 130. We have $51,000 total match in the stormwater improvements to the Terry Estates parking lot and the Public Works building. It's actually a $130,000 project, but the rest of that money is from the states being added in through Land to Sky. This will be our last payment of match for that. But we also have $15,000 that's going to be, we're adding to that because once we got into design, there's a multi-purpose sidewalk that will both move water in certain places and protect the whole biocell at the front of the parking lot, but that was out of scope for what was originally approved in the grant, so we will be paying for that. It's really going to get all of that water that sheets off Terry Estates and from the parking lot into those inlets with much greater efficiency. And the project that's over there, it will take all of the water from the parking lot and water that's sheeting from the opposite direction. It will be going through chained SCMs, so that water will cool and be treated before it exits and hits the inlet and goes directly into the Swananoa River, just on the other side of the parking lot. Thermal pollution, hydrocarbons, heavy metals, and things like this that are in these parking lots in close proximity to the river are high concentrations of pollution. So if we can cool it and clean it, that's our goal.
Does the sidewalk extend all the way to Black Mountain Avenue?
No, it stops right there at Millimac Steps. And then, I wanted just to mention though.
You mentioned that on the, excuse me, I just want to ask about, when you mentioned the heavy metals,
Mhm.
it's a great thing to be thinking about the heavy metals that are in there. But anything that we do would just simply put, whether it's repairing buffers or anything, the only way we're going to get those heavy metals out of there is with ionic filters. You're not going to remove the heavy metals. It just doesn't occur. I mean, when I was at MSD and stormwater, that's the biggest problem that all of us have, is how to remove those heavy metals.
Yep.
I mean, it's nice to talk about it and stuff, but, to remove other pollutants and particulate matter, yes.
Yeah.
But heavy metal, we will not be removing those.
One of the biggest issues, so the Swananoa River has two impairments. It has fecal coliform, which we've done some really cool DNA testing on to try to figure that out. Turns out it's human, not animals like we were hoping. And it also has benthos, so those little critters in the sand layer are not how they should be. That is mostly from particulate matter, because particulates pick up pollution and carry it with it. So these infiltration opportunities are helpful. So that is the budget for that. I did just want to put on your radar because these may come in the way of budget amendments, potentially this fiscal year or very soon in the new fiscal year. We will be dealing with the $5 million and $400,000 in some way, shape, or form. We also we're still working on getting our FEMA situation straight for the restoration work on Swananoa River. We will be applying for a grant for a stormwater diversion project on Tomahawk Avenue and Fairway Drive. The project is about $170,000. It'll be a 50-50 split if granted. So if we might come back and do an $85,000 budget amendment if that is awarded. Last year, we had a small $7,000 grant for the Stream Flow Rehabilitation Assistance Program. It was a zero match. But because we were successful in a short period of time, we were eligible to come back and make another request And this time we have asked for $200,000 to do woody debris and debris jam removal on the entire stretch of the Swananoa River in town limits. So it's pushing 7 miles. We may find out at the end of this month if that's been awarded or not. I just figured go big or go home. If they might grant less, if they do, then we'll have to prioritize a different section. So those may be coming back to you in the form of budget amendments.
You mentioned here Tomahawk and Fairway Drive. What, can you elaborate a little more with what that involves there? So we're talking about the water that's coming down Fairway Drive and then going under Hiawassee and then onto the golf course?
Yes, there's actually a house over there that continues to get flooded. And we've done some stopgap measures over there that have been pretty successful, but they're not, they're just stopgap measures.
Now,
And
this is the house on Hiawassee that you're speaking
it's
about.
kind of in the corner of Tomahawk Avenue. And I'm sorry, I don't have my stormwater master plan with me, but it's on page 52. You can take a look at it. We chose it because we do have damage occurring in a residential location. It's also in our right of way. And so we don't have to, we have land control. It's also affordable in our current, budget constraints.
Going down into the golf courses, this is just restoration going to try to take care of some of the swamp that is created down there on the Fifth Fairway.
No, it is to maintain what has been previously rehabilitated because just like any other improvement, I think you have to take care of the things that you have done. And so it's riparian maintenance.
Mr. Mayor, we're trying to work with DOT to get that ditch more opened up there on that hole to get some of that water back in the ditch.
Well, and then the ditch too, goes behind all those houses. That Cliff Myers built there right in the corner.
Okay.
There's 4 houses in there. And that ditch carries it around most of the way, but the water jumps out and then gets back over and causes that. Anything, what about on the FEMA restoration down there? Because people keep asking me about that,
It is-
Veterans Park.
Yep, we are still waiting for we're still waiting on FEMA.
And feel free to, Mr. Mayor, to send them to me if you would like to. That is a very long and lengthy conversation and process. It's almost been 2 years now since that storm occurred. And we continue to fight with FEMA, as do every other town in Western North Carolina to get that money.
They promised us a certain amount, but it was way under
It was about half.
half, right? So we went back to ask for more.
That's right. And we're trying to talk to a couple of representatives from the state emergency management who are essentially, their job is to meet unmet needs. So we've had multiple conversations with them on them funding the remainder. We're still trying to work through that with them. I know that Haywood County has used them and they've been successful in getting some funding outside of FEMA. So we're continuing to explore that avenue as well.
Can you give us a little bit of idea about the mapping of that? Excuse me, before that. Talk about this $5 million stormwater because it's a particular project.
Yep,
Could you please explain what the project is? Because I don't have a clue. I don't know what this is about.
I wish I had the newspaper articles with me because it had good pictures and maps, and they're also available on our website. It is from the Stormwater Master Plan. It is a nature-based solution to create flood benching through this about 3,000 linear feet, basically from the South Blue Ridge Road Bridge to the community garden at I-40. Now it's not one giant flood bench. It'll be a piece here, a piece there, and some constructed wetlands and things like that involved. And essentially it is creating flood storage on the river to reduce some hazards from it's a very, flashy system. And so it creates flood storage, but it it gets the room for the water to spread out, which also creates water quality improvements. It also involves constructed wetlands, partially in DOT right of way, about 1 acre of them total, I think, where these floodwaters can also store and infiltrate.
I'll have to check out the article because I don't know what a water bench is versus
Okay.
a rain collection.
I used to be really good at drawing this in there,
No.
but it's like, if you have the top of the bank and you've got the creek, the bed, and
Yeah.
you've got water, you basically are making more room for this water to spread out in a particular area, so it will slow down.
Kind of a tiered
So we did
effect.
Tomahawk, right? Coming to like.
This is-
holes in the creek. That's what we get utilized, but We should have utilized it years ago, and wouldn't have as much silt in the lake, but
Yeah.
now we are keeping those cleaned out.
Yeah, there's, if you've ever walked around behind the Swananoa Valley Friends meeting house, there's a natural flood bench back there where it has over time sort of taken out part of their property and just created this shelf space.
All the way down from there, all the way to number 9 behind Bilo's.
Mhm.
When we put that section of the Greenway in. Ronnie Craig, who, with the time, I said, we need to have the Greenway down lower to the creek, and he says, no, you need to have it up here higher, because the water will get into that area, which there is the bench, is what you're speaking about. And with all the floods we've ever had, we've never had a problem with that Greenway section with the flooding.
This project is it is recommended all the way from 40 up to behind Bilo. And we were able, $5 million got you 3,000 feet of it. And that includes the engineering, any real estate requirements, permitting, and construction. So what was one of the really cool things about that pot of money is that it did not have to be shovel ready. So the project in the master plan is conceptual. And this funding also favored nature-based solutions over like pipe projects.
So we've got a project here that basically is going to be over on top of the existing project that washed out.
No, it stops before that. So the project that washed out was around Veterans Park. It said 14,
Yeah, I thought you said the bridge on Blue Ridge Road there.
The South Blue Ridge
That's what
Road.
you said.
The bridge that's being replaced over South Blue Ridge Road right now, from there to the community garden is the second one we're looking at. So we are,
Heading west.
yes, heading west. So when that project is done and the project that we did a couple years ago is rehabbed, there will be a significant part of the river that has had improvements.
All right, getting back into the other thing that is the mapping.
Mhm.
When will we ever be able to get the mapping done of the existing storm drains that we have downtown that have been there for longer than I've been alive?
Well, we're working on getting the RFP for, we have to go through a very complicated, because this is ARPA money, but infrastructure money. So,
No, that's coming out of which,
the $400,000 that we were also awarded, we were awarded $5.4 million, $5 million of that was infrastructure money, 400,000 of that was planning money. And of that 400,000, one of the activities is mapping and conditions assessment of the existing hard infrastructure.
we just can't hire somebody to go in there and TV those lines.
That is part of that process, yes. But we don't have any money to do that.
I mean, we could, but we've got great money to do it with, so.
I mean, these are the comments that keep coming up more and more with me as I talk to the public out there about what is being done with.
You're
with-
federally
with the
compliant.
money.
So if you were not federally compliant, we were issued a notice of violation. Had we not remedied that notice of violation, we would have been
I
subject to
understand what you're saying. I
10 days
understand
worth
what
of
you're
fees
saying.
would have taken of every penny of
I
the storm
understand that
utility.
we're complying. I'm just trying to say that here's something right here that probably deals more with stormwater than any other area in the town. And we haven't ever really dealt with it. I mean, we've never dealt with it. I mean, hopefully this will be done this year, but,
Good thing is we're getting ready to.
well, let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Any more questions on stormwater, council? If not, I would say next Wednesday will be golf and water. And that, I think,
And when will we get into revenue?
revenue will be hopefully that same day, if not the next week.
Anybody has anything else? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jessica.
That's right.